If you had a fictional story like this about a guy coming from Africa who was a soccer player, and he came over here and he became what I feel was the most dominating player in the game.
Oh, have mercy! I tell you, Olajuwon has David Robinson just bamboozled.
The MVP.
And you do it with an elegance and a grace that's spectacular.
And a champion. They'd say, well, you know, it's a pretty good story, but that doesn't happen in real life. But it did.
For Hakeem Olajuwon, it was an unlikely journey that began in the West African nation of Nigeria.
Growing up in Nigeria, we get the opportunity to develop athletic ability by creating our own sports. So all the sports that they were playing, we used to play just by having our own hockey stick, pole, soccer. So it was very natural.
Blessed with incredible physical gifts, Hakeem became an exceptional goalkeeper on the soccer pitch and didn't try his hand at hoops until he was 15.
The coach put the rest of the team on one side of the court, and they called the point guard and myself on the other side. It gave me that attention to let me realize how important my position in this game is. This is your comfort zone. You rule this lane.
His skills on the court took him all the way from Lagos, Nigeria to Houston, Texas. He earned a spot on the University of Houston basketball team where he quickly showed his enormous potential, but his skills were still extremely raw.
When he started with the University of Houston, he had no offensive moves whatsoever. He could play some defense and block some shots, but he was brand new to the game of basketball.
Seeking advice on how to refine his game, the coaching staff suggested he work out at a local gym.
He used to go down to the Fondy Rec Center, which was in downtown Houston, and play with the older players like Moses Malone.
Three-time MVP of the league at that time, and perhaps the best big man in the game at that time was his mentor. Taught him the low post moves, played against him every day, and so that's how he got better so quickly.
Armed with the new technique taught by his Hall of Fame mentor, Hakeem returned from the summer a different player. He quickly became a star with the Cougars and a signature member of their unique dunking fraternity, Phi Slamma Jamma. In his sophomore and junior years, he led the team to consecutive NCAA championship games, solidifying his status as the #1 collegiate prospect in the country. And in 1984, he would enter the NBA draft.
The Houston Rockets select Hakeem Olajuwon of the University of Houston.
It is official. The well-attired Hakeem Olajuwon, who started playing basketball just 5 years ago from Nigeria, is now the #1 pick.
I'm just very happy. I think this is the best thing can ever happen to me.
Olajuwon had gone from Nigerian soccer player to the top pick in the NBA draft. But for Hakeem, the journey was just getting started. When Hakeem Olajuwon joined the Rockets in 1984, he was expected to help turn around a team that had won only 29 games the previous season. But even though they were a struggling franchise, the Rockets did have one building block in place: reigning Rookie of the Year center Ralph Sampson.
Bill Fitch, who was coaching during that time, had two tremendous talents, and he had to find a place to play both of them. You know, it would have been an injustice to split time. So he put them on the floor, and of course they were so talented that they were interchangeable.
Slam dunk, and here we go. That's what the fans are looking for.
Both standing over 7 feet tall, Sampson and Olajuwon formed the NBA's original Twin Towers, and they helped the Rockets to 48 wins and a playoff berth in 1985.
How about a give and go between the Twin Towers?
Hakeem Olajuwon was much like Bill Russell in that he kept the ball in play, and as soon as he would block it, he and Ralph would take off to the other end, and the guards were hard-pressed to stay with those 7-footers. So the Rockets really had it at both ends.
There is a monster in Houston, Texas.
Just 1 year later, Houston advanced all the way to the Western Conference Finals in a matchup with the Los Angeles Lakers. And led by their second-year star, the Rockets took control of the series.
Triple on Hakeem. Hakeem with the basket and the foul.
I was having fun that series, really, because I was playing my game. You know, you feel like anytime you get the ball, you know, they have no answer for it.
The Rockets built a 3-1 series lead against the defending NBA champions.
The Houston Rockets going to be one game away from getting to the NBA Finals.
Hakeem and the Rockets were on the brink of shocking the sports world and would cap off the upset in unlikely and dramatic fashion.
McRae will inbound. 1 second on the clock. Sampson. It goes. It's over. A miraculous shot by Ralph Sampson. Off balance has given the Houston Rockets the Western Conference Championship.
This was like a miracle. I mean, it was unbelievable. The way he shot, the way he cut it and shot it at the same time, you know. How many times that would happen? I think that shot for Sampson's career is what people will remember him for. I mean, it was unbelievable.
After knocking off one NBA powerhouse, the Rockets advanced to take on another as they entered the 1986 Finals against the Boston Celtics, brimming with confidence.
And there's another turnaround and another Hakeem Olajuwon foray.
Although they eventually fell to the Celtics in 6 games, it seemed Houston had emerged as a legitimate title contender.
We thought with Sampson and Olajuwon that we would be the team to beat for the next 10 years.
But just 2 years after appearing in the NBA Finals, the Rockets found themselves at a crossroads. Ralph Sampson, who had been struggling with injuries, was traded to Golden State in 1988. And though Hakeem had emerged as a bona fide superstar, the Rockets continued to struggle, failing to make it past the first round of the playoffs for 4 straight years and then missing them entirely in 1992.
Hakeem really worked hard, did a lot of great things individually and tried to pull the Rockets through those years, but we just never really had any big success.
Hoping to shake up the franchise, Houston installed assistant Rudy Tomjanovich as their head coach towards the end of the 92 season. Their next order of business was rebuilding the team around their franchise center.
We started to devise a system that we were going to have Hakeem right in the heart of it, and 90% of the things that we do are going to go through him. And he was the kind of player that could handle that kind of a load.
Behind the back to Olajuwon, back to Max. Max passes off to Hakeem. My goodness!
And soon Hakeem was not only dominating his opponents,
Quick spin. Oh, slam dunk at
13. Pass inside there. Oh, blocked by Olajuwon. Oh, boy.
he was also sharing the ball and making his teammates better as well.
Smith for 3.
There's that ball movement by Olajuwon that has become so potent for the Rockets this year.
Under their new coach, the Rockets set a franchise record with 55 wins in 1993.
Look at Hakeem Olajuwon. He gets the punch steal all the way. Hakeem with a steal and the fast break.
We were 41-11 to end that season and had a great series that came down to the last shot of the 7th game against Seattle. And we felt that we had arrived. And that confidence started to feeling that we could maybe be champions.
And as the 1994 season got underway, Hakeem and the Rockets made it clear that they intended to reach that potential.
Sensational game for that man, Hakeem Olajuwon, 37 points, and the Houston Rockets going to a record of 15-0.
By season's end, Olajuwon was honored with the league's most coveted award.
Congratulations on being the 1994 NBA Most Valuable Player.
And after earning the #1 seed, Olajuwon led the Rockets into the playoffs, believing they could win it all.
The Houston Rockets on their way to the Western Conference Final.
4 games to 1. Houston wins the West. So the dream goes on to the NBA Finals.
remember 1986, the last time this team was in the finals? You're the only guy in here that might remember it. What's going to be different now?
I hope to win it all this time. That would be a big difference.
After being crowned as the league's MVP, Hakeem Olajuwon carried his team through the playoffs and into the NBA Finals. And waiting for them were the New York Knicks, armed with a tough blue-collar style and their own franchise center, Patrick Ewing.
I have tremendous respect for Patrick. Somebody that you don't really have any advantage. He's a dominant big man. So it's always a battle.
And pitted against a similar foe, Hakeem raised his play to an even higher level in Game 1.
Olajuwon has hit his first 4 shots. Olajuwon again going right at Ewing. And the foul. He has been unstoppable.
Stunned by Hakeem's brilliance in Houston's series opening victory, the Knicks retooled in Game 2.
Olajuwon getting inside, and he is fouled.
Pat Riley wants his team to get back to being the New York Knicks, which means tough, physical.
The dream has been devastated. The Knicks have smothered him inside, has not been a factor.
Victimized by the Knicks' rugged style, Hakeem and the Rockets left Houston with a 1-all split. And the resilient Knicks then went on to win 2 of the next 3.
Starks with the lead for Bonner. Yes, and a count. This one is headed back to Houston with the Knicks up 3 games to 2.
One win away.
With their backs against the wall, Olajuwon and the Rockets returned to Houston for Game 6. And Knicks sharpshooter John Starks did all he could to put the Rockets away.
Starks open for a 3, and he scores!
I'll never forget the performance that John Starks put on in Game 6. I mean, it was unbelievable. He was hitting shots from all over the court.
But despite Starks' hot hand, the Rockets found themselves clinging to a 2-point lead with just seconds remaining. And heading into the final play, they knew who'd be taking the last shot.
He's right in front of us at the Rocket bench, and I remember looking up. He got the ball.
Out of Starks. Starks against Maxwell. Ewing sets the pick.
He shot it, and I'm telling you, it was right on line. And all of a sudden, flying out of nowhere comes Hakeem Olajuwon.
Starks with a look from 3. It's tipped, and it's knocked away, and the Rockets win. The ball was tipped. Olajuwon, Olajuwon with the big tip.
I call it a fingertip. It was probably a fingernail, but it was enough to divert the shot.
The MVP saves the Houston Rockets, and there will be a Game 7.
In the series' decisive game, the Rockets would lean on Olajuwon one more time.
Tomahawk jammed it home! These are the moments, the championship moments that define the great players. The guys that are born to play basketball, the guys that are born to win.
And Hakeem gave Houston its first NBA title.
And the Houston Rockets, led by Hakeem Olajuwon, are the world champions of 1994.
The confetti is falling, the music is playing, the celebration is going on the court. Security guards are trying to hold off the fans. It's a mob scene, but standing off to the side, all by himself, leaning up against the press table, with the basketball hugged to his chest, is this smiling Hakeem Olajuwon.
Wow, it was over. Finally, the long journey to get there make it so much special. You know, if you win 10, 12 championships, but the experience of the first one, you know, you can never forget.
But after the jubilation from their championship, Hakeem and the Rockets found that returning to the top would be an even greater challenge. With the team appearing to be ill-equipped to defend their title, they made a blockbuster deal with Portland to bring in Hakeem's former teammate at the University of Houston, Clyde Drexler.
From the University of Houston, did it ever in your wildest dreams think you and Clyde would be reunited anywhere?
Well, it's too good to be true.
Despite the boost from Drexler, the Rockets could only muster a 6th seed heading into the playoffs. And their first opponents in the postseason were Karl Malone and the Utah Jazz. The two teams split the first 4 games of the series, setting up a decisive Game 5.
Yes, 106 for 3, 20. Jazz lead at 82-75.
With the defending champs facing an early playoff exit, Hakeem sparked a furious fourth-quarter rally.
Oh, hang on.
2-point ball game.
And behind their dominant big man, Houston escaped with the first-round win.
Pack him up. We're headed for Phoenix. Over. This baby's over.
Up next for the Rockets was a date with Charles Barkley and the Phoenix Suns. But this time there would be no back and forth as the Suns raced out to a commanding 3-1 series lead.
They're going crazy here in America West Arena. The world champions are reeling.
Charles Barkley, in the last 30 seconds, as they're taking the 3-1 lead, walked by the press table and leaned over to a couple of us and said, "Bring your golf clubs to Phoenix because you're not leaving." And his deal was, "I'm going home now to America West Arena where I'm going to have a party with 15,000 of my closest friends."
And fittingly, it was Sir Charles who had a chance to ice the series.
Barkley misses again. Unbelievable.
And in overtime, the Rockets took advantage of Barkley's missed opportunities.
Horry, rebound, get it up, go in a foul! Doing a foul, Robert Horry. The ball game is over.
With the momentum in their favor, Houston tied the series in Game 6, and they capped off their incredible comeback in dramatic fashion.
Mario Ellie with a 3! The Rockets have knocked off the Phoenix Suns, coming from behind 3-1.
Up next in the conference finals were the San Antonio Spurs, owners of the best record in the NBA, and the newest league MVP, center David Robinson.
I think the biggest mistake in that series was made by David Robinson. He's like, I'd like to thank all the great players that I had to go against, Charles Barkley, whoever, and he never said Hakeem, and who was the MVP last year.
He just told me before the game, he said, "Mario, he's borrowing my trophy." Just like that. I never heard Jermaine talk no mess, so when I heard that, I was like, it's personal, it's personal.
Armed with that extra motivation, Hakeem proceeded to take the wind out of the Admiral's sails.
Oh, man. If David Robinson is not quick enough to stop you, nobody is. I tell you, Olajuwon has David Robinson just bamboozled.
He gave him the business.
Robinson is saying, "What must I do?"
His whole repertoire, spin move, drop step, jump hook, finger roll behind his head, he gave him everything.
And after winning both games in San Antonio, Hakeem led the Rockets to a 6-game upset over the league's top team.
What he did to David Robinson and the Spurs should have been illegal. That was the greatest single individual performance I think I've ever seen.
Welcome to the 1995 NBA Finals.
The Rockets' improbable run to their second straight finals pitted them against the up-and-coming Orlando Magic. And for Hakeem, it meant another showdown against one of the league's premier big men.
You had the older center in Hakeem against the young guy who's supposed to take the torch from him.
Take the sting out of Hakeem shot!
It was going to be an early beginning to what I think a lot of people thought was the Orlando dynasty.
And Orlando's young guns looked up to the task when they took control of Game 1.
Short hop, the long pass up court to Hardaway. He tomahawked it home. Oh, he
But the Rockets displayed their finals pedigree as they shot their way back into the game.
Kenny, duck, lead, fire, score! Oh, the cold-blooded three!
And on the game's final possession, it was Olajuwon to the rescue once again.
Smith circles out back. Instead, they give it to Drexler.
Oh, he's
Drexler driving. He goes. He puts it up. On the rim off. Tipped in by Hakeem.
I don't know if he didn't realize that it had gone in or if he didn't realize that the time was out and the game was over. But it took about 10 seconds for it to get across to him that the Rockets had actually won the ball game.
The Houston Rockets have stunned the Orlando Magic, and they win Game 1.
Following their last-second victory, the Rockets went on to overwhelm the inexperienced Magic with their unique blend of team chemistry. And in the fourth and final game, it was the franchise center who put the exclamation point on their amazing championship run.
Olajuwon for three. Yes!
It's only fitting.
What a way to end it.
The Houston Rockets have won their second consecutive NBA championship. They have swept the Orlando Magic.
Coming from the 6th seed and going through all of the best teams in the NBA on the road and winning a championship, that was perhaps one of the greatest accomplishments, I think, in NBA history.
And we had non-believers all along the way. I have one thing to say to those non-believers. don't ever underestimate the heart of a champion.
When I talked about a heart of a champion, the vision I got was Hakeem Olajuwon.
After winning back-to-back titles, the Rockets were swept in the second round of the 1996 playoffs. And like they did in '95, Houston made a blockbuster deal, this time bringing in former MVP Charles Barkley. But unlike before, the results fell short of expectations.
The flow of the game was different, but we accomplished by going to the Western Conference Finals, but we didn't do it.
Stockton, open three. Good! John Stockton sends the Utah Jazz to the NBA Finals.
I would love to see that Charles and I, where we put it together, But I think, it didn't work. It was crowded. So I was I'm sorry, Charles, it didn't work out that way,
In 2001, after 17 seasons as a Rocket, Olajuwon headed north to Toronto, where he would play one season as a Raptor before retiring. 1 year later, he came back home to a hero's welcome in Houston.
Dream.
Oh, Coach!
Congratulations. Thank you for everything. Listen, all the good things that happen in my life, it's all because I mean it, because you cooperated and we had a partnership. And I hope you feel the love that we all have for you.
Coach, I'm serious. Thank you so much. Sincerely.
Yeah.
We'll talk. Thanks so much. The way that the city have embraced me from college from the beginning up to this day, you cannot have a better position. I don't see it how. So Houston for me is, that's home.
Like they're in trouble.
Still loyal to the Rockets in retirement, Hakeem helped continue the tradition of dominant Houston big men.
Moses passed the torch to Hakeem, and now Hakeem is sharing some of his wisdom and his experience to Yao, and I think it's wonderful.
So he can make a huge difference for little things. Doing little things can make a big difference. I think the same thing that I was taught to understand from the beginning. The concept to let him know this is your territory.
Actually, today is a very good lesson for me. I learned a lot of experience from Dream. I think for the young player, not many people get this chance.
And while Yao may be the current center of attention in Houston, Olajuwon's accomplishments have earned him a permanent spot in the fans' hearts and in the annals of NBA history.
But Hakeem did things that I don't think any other big man had ever done. And those were things that a conversation a couple years later, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell talked to him about and told him that, they were proud of the way, he had sort of advanced the position.
The dream shake at its perfection.
What Hakeem has left us with is dignity and the way that he handled himself, and he became a champion, but he did it the right way.